all gathered together. This is in the 60s, so it's, it was the kind of a nice haze of pot smoke everywhere, and we're all out in the street, and they had the LA police on one end of the Sunset Strip and the sheriffs on the other. And of course, it's the classic pincer movement. They push the crowd together, create a riot, and then beat the everybody. So at one point, they're all saying, unlawful, I declare this. And so we all sat down. So we all sat down, and I sat down on an open issue of the LA Free Press. And I pulled it out from under my ass, and there was a picture that I was sitting on. And it said, KPFK newsman Peter Bergman interviews returning war veterans from the Vietnam War. And I said, well, I went to Yale with Peter Bergman. And he's now on KPFK, which is the great underground station at that time. And so I said, well, I'll call in the next day. Well, the next thing that happened was, of course, Peter got beaten up. Brandon got arrested. I was writing for the for the East Village Other at the time in New York. And I had a press card, which had a big eye on it. And I held up my card as the cops started, moving in on us and said, press, press, press. And they just flowed around me like a hot knife through butter. It was great. So the next day I called up Peter Bergman and I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm the Wizard of Oz. I said, I know, but what are you doing? He had this show, this counterculture talk show called Radio Free Oz, which was on from like midnight to 3 in the morning on KPFK. And he said, come on down, we'll play on the radio. So I went down. Indeed, we improvised on the radio, and I met these two other guys, David Osman and Phil Austin, who were both working at the station. And we all started playing together. It was like word jazz. We all had this surreal comic mind that we shared, and we started creating characters. And I remember we discovered we were all fire signs. I'm a Leo, there were 2 Sagittarians, and an Aries. Unfortunately, an Aries is stubborn. Anyway, and we found that we could improvise well together. We did a thing called the Oz Film Festival, where we showed movies on the radio. And it's possible. And Phil Austin, he was doing what he called the movies for the bedroom. They were adult films. And this is, early in the mid-'60s, before pornography became, totally available to anybody but Fred Willard, who said, you remember that. Sorry. So anyway.
Mary's going to hear about that.
Mary hears about everything. So anyway, he shows his movie on the air. It's called Blondie Pays the Rent. That was the name of the movie. And we got a call from someone saying, you can't show dirty movies on the radio. And we went, oh, we got something going here. So we started Bergman actually created the Oz fire sign.